Obama was in touch with Clooney before that piece came out. Oh, no.
I am saying Joe Biden, who has over 90% of the delegates to the DNC convention, is the nominee for our party.
Is not being covered up either by Democrats or by media looking the other way. This is the first time we've seen on full display the truth. They have covered this up for so long, and it's a scandal.
Obama backstabs Biden. The truth is being revealed. Who was behind the George Clooney Hollywood assault? Probably Biden and Obama. Obama, maybe Biden. Who knows? Biden doesn't know. Two of the party's most prominent figures have served as sounding boards, and they're seemingly trying to push the president aside, Obama and Pelosi changing their tune. And you've seen this across the board. We saw the Obama bros, Axelrod and the Pod Save America guys all come out and rake Joe Biden over the coals, responding to the George Clooney letter. Now, two of the Democrats' most powerful and popular personalities have assumed quiet behind-the-scenes roles. Obama was in touch with Clooney before that piece came out. Oh, no. A2, Obama. Very nice. Before the actor published his buzzy and brutal New York Times op-ed on Wednesday, calling on Biden to step aside as the presumptive nominee. The two men who are friendly both attended the LA fundraiser. That's the one, I think, where Biden was carried off the stage by Obama. Remember, Obama grabbed his hand, pulled him off. And that they said he was the same man we all witnessed at the debate, is what Clooney said. That was the kill shot. And then you saw Axelrod and the Pod Save America guys that came out. Yeah, it's true. We were all nervous. I was even talking to my wife about it. Yeah, okay. While Obama did not encourage or advise Clooney to say what he said, he also didn't object to it. Obama. Oh, man. He was your vice president for 8 years. People familiar with their exchange said the lack of pushback came despite the former president stepping out as one of the first big voices defending Biden following his abysmal debate performance. And they all got the polls. As many of Obama's former aides have emerged as some of the incumbent's biggest critics. A representative for the Obama team declined to comment. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, meanwhile, has been engaged in some more active maneuverings. She carefully ironed out what she wanted to say Wednesday on Morning Joe. These comments were meant to serve as a subtle green light, one person says. And Pelosi, it was meant to encourage members to speak up about their desire and warn Biden to consider staying in the race. It's like, gosh, they're so pathetic. Why doesn't somebody just come out and just say it? Oh, I know. Because they would be fools, because they've been lying to us for 3.5 years. That's why they have to have Clooney come out and say it. Because Obama can't do it. Obama can't come out and say, yeah, Joe's like, gotta go. Because then the question is, why did you have him as the vice president of our country for 8 years? Is that why you didn't want him to run in 2016 because you knew he was gone? And then if you didn't, why did you endorse him and stand behind him in 2020? If you knew he was a problem in 2020, why didn't you say something? And in 2024, if you guys knew he was a problem, Obama, why didn't you allow an open primary? Why didn't you allow Phillips or Kennedy or any one of the other Democrats to come in there and actually have a debate? Remember, they could have had a debate. It wasn't like they got blindsided with a debate. This is a presidential campaign. They should have known, we have debates. So if they wanted to get rid of Joe or wanted to test his capability, they could have had him debate Phillips or Kennedy and just said, oh, look, he's vibrant. He's totally capable. But they are election riggers. That's all that they do. They did it in 2016, tried to. They rigged it with Hillary and Bernie. Then they did it again. And they tried to rig it in 2016 in other ways, but they lost on that one because they got caught with their pants down. Then in 2020, they said, we're not going to let this happen again. So they rigged the whole thing and they shoved Joe Biden in there, a totally incompetent person, because they have the infrastructure under their control. So they knew this for years and they could have done something about it. And they could have had an easy glide path for Joe also, by the way, just thinking about this. They could have just said, I'm not going to run for re-election. He would have never had a debate. He would have never had exposure. He would have said, let's have an open primary. They could have avoided all of this, but they didn't. They lied to everybody. And so now they can't backtrack, which is why they have to go drag out Clooney, someone who is not basically, you know, he's a political guy, but no one's going to hold him accountable for his hypocrisy and his lies. He's just a Hollywood actor that nobody cares about, except the left. I mean, they love these people. Like, they worship them. And, oh, Clooney. So they all, well, guess what? Clooney's doing it. I guess I got to do it. All right, morons. So it's now just an excuse, an escape hatch for them to latch onto. George Clooney, I guess, is going to save the Democratic Party because Nancy Pelosi can't have the courage to just come out and say it. I was wrong. I made a mistake. Yeah, Joe Biden is not who I thought he was. Okay. Anyways, we're not going to talk about it anymore. We have to make a change. Let's Let's do it now. Go. They won't do it because they've been lying, man, and they just got caught so badly. So those comments were meant to serve as a subtle green light. Why don't you just say it? It's politics. You got like 4 months, 5 months to go. Furthermore, in private conversations with lawmakers, the former speaker has been forthright about the dire situation the party finds itself in. How'd you get there? She suggested to people that Biden won't win this November should step aside, according to a half dozen lawmakers who've either spoken with her or familiar with the conversations she's had. She's advised some Democrats in swing districts to do whatever they have to do to secure their own re-elections. I mean, even if it means asking Biden to get off the ticket. Like, if you got to say go, go. She's like, we got to save the House. Pelosi has advised those members, however, to wait until this week's NATO summit is finished, then to go out. Some members were told, so it's like holding pattern, all right? Just like, don't wait till Zelensky gets his money. Then you can go after him. So Joe Biden is just very excited about they're excited about having Joe Biden as the puppet master placeholder who will then do whatever they want. They'll get their Ukraine money and they'll call it a day. For members who aren't in swing states, Pelosi has encouraged them to take their pleas for Biden to step aside directly to the White House or the campaign as to minimize public fighting. We're told that some have tried but have not been able to get through to the president. They're going to keep trying. Thursday afternoon, they're heading to the Capitol for some damage control. The president faces a high-stakes big boy press conference. See how he does there. But the backstab continues. The Obama bros are ganging up on Biden, and they're saying there's a lot of tension lingering here. It's hard to watch. 3 former Obama advisors went out and knifed Joe in the back like Brutus. 3 former advisors took aim at him. John Favreau, John Lovett, and Tommy Vietor. I guess these guys, honestly, never even heard about, who are often referred to as the Obama bros. They dedicated the majority of their latest Pod Save America episode. That's why. I thought it was bad and at times very hard to watch, someone said, referencing the sit down. So they're all just coming after him. In all fairness, I don't think the interview could have solved the political problem. This guy also argued he didn't articulate a compelling reason for a second term. So it's 3 bros just knifing him. All over the place because Obama said, go get him. Favreau said the same thing. Said the interview was a little bit more coherent than the debate, but I don't know if it's going to work out for him. So they know Mika Brzezinski and Joe Brzezinski are talking about this. Apparently they're hearing the same thing. Obama has knives out for Joe.
And follow what's going on behind the scenes is the Biden campaign and many Democratic officials do believe that Barack Obama is quietly working behind the scenes to orchestrate this. And if Joe Biden believes that, that's not going to get him out of the race any faster. Anytime David Axelrod attacks him, David Axelrod ensures that Joe Biden will dig himself in another day. Anytime the pod bros say something nasty about Joe Biden, which they have repeatedly said nasty things about Joe Biden before the debate, after the debate, every time they do that, he digs in a little bit further. The pathway to Joe Biden graciously stepping aside does not go through the Obamas or the Clintons. It just doesn't. Again, as I said, because some people don't understand, I'm not talking about what ought to be. I'm talking about what is. And this is the reality. Jonathan Lemire, Joe Biden is deeply resentful of his treatment under not only the Obama staff, but also the way he was pushed aside for Hillary Clinton. Wow. He's deeply resentful of those trying to shove him out of the way. He's always felt like an outsider, always felt like people have looked down upon him. And that's why I said at the top of the show, when people who know him best say the only people that can talk to him are Nancy Pelosi, Ted Kaufman, Chris Dodd, John Kerry, Ron Klain, of course, Jim Clyburn, and members of the Biden family.
Lemire, hold on one second. It's not just resentment. He's been right. You know, he's proven them wrong.
Well,
all right. So, okay. It sounds like he's just kind of a cranky, bitter, angry old man who has dementia, which doesn't sound like it's an ideal thing for the governance and leadership of our country. But all right, so I don't know what they're going to do about this. Now, the Biden people are pushing back on them. So this was a fun clip from Jake Tapper. Tapper said, hey, what's going on with this new statement? Apparently, Biden was saying George Clooney went to bed before I did. Biden's bedtime, as we know, is about 8 o'clock, and he had to be dragged off the stage. It might have been after his bedtime or something. Obama had to go, read him his bedtime story and tuck him in. But apparently, Clooney was in bed by like 5 or something. And now CNN's reporting that, and they're saying Clooney can't even keep up with Joe. Here's Jake Tapper's reaction to that.
And in response to those comments from George Clooney, Jake, a campaign official who attended that Los Angeles fundraiser tells me that George Clooney left 3 hours before the president. So clearly, the gloves are off, Jake.
But what does that mean that George Clooney left 3 hours? What's the point?
The point of that is to suggest that Biden's stamina is better than Clooney's, and Clooney didn't have, eyes on the entire event. That's the response to the Clooney op-ed.
Okay, Taylor Tashi, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Karen Finney.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. All right. So he's got more stamina than Clooney. Jake Tapper's like, have you seen Clooney's nipples in that Batman movie? Are you kidding me? Amazing. So it's nice to see them. They can't hide it anymore. They're like, oh gosh, they can't even hide it anymore. Meanwhile, remember, not that long ago, Jake Tapper was screaming at Laura Trump and others for even hinting that Joe Biden was demented. Now he's like, all right, yeah, okay. So he's standing right. Okay, he's got more stamina than Clooney. All right, meanwhile, DNC chair Jaime Harrison says Joe Biden is gonna be the nominee. Crooked Joe is in it to win it, baby. And don't you worry about it for a minute. Here's Jaime Harrison.
Is there any doubt in your mind that President Biden should be the Democratic nominee for president?
No doubt whatsoever, Willie. Listen, 14 million people in 50 states and our 5 territories in D.C. and our Democrats abroad went to the polls, did caucuses, and voted for Joe Biden to be our nominee.
They did.
So without any hesitation, equivocation, I am saying Joe Biden, who has over 90% of the delegates to the DNC convention, is the nominee for our party.
Is there
Perfect. And they better not disenfranchise all those Democrats, man, because Joe Biden represents them in his capabilities, in his integrity, in his family, in his logic, in his thinking, in his speaking, in his reasoning, his morality. He's perfect for them. So he has been voted for, and they cannot usurp the will of the people. Joe Biden is so great. This is what he sounds like when he's talking to NATO. This got clipped over from our friend Jeff Carlson and RNC Research. They shared this. Apparently, Joe Biden is screaming at everybody in NATO. Here's a short clip.
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language. We do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors. The ally.
Okay, so I think he just flubbed his words on that. We do share a common language. We don't, but we do, but we don't share borders. So he just kind of mixed those words up. Anyways, here's what's happening here. Now, they're seemingly getting desperate. We just heard that fella tell us. He's got all these delegates, all right? He's going to win 90% of the delegates. Everybody voted for him because he's a perfect caricature of who they are. Says, fearing a floor revolt, though, Biden aides are calling individual delegates. They're like, hey, dude, you remember us? Like, Joe Biden. You're a Joe Biden delegate. He's like, I am? Are you sure? Is that what the paperwork said? Well, I'm going to have to go double check it. Talking to my lawyers right now. After a round of introductory questions confirming each delegate was still planning to go to Chicago and asking if they'd served as a delegate before, the Biden aide making the calls got to the point. One of the delegates said the line of questioning turned with an inquiry along the lines of, do you understand what being a pledged delegate means? Do you have any potential disagreements with the president, sir, madam, or she, her? Said the bottom line question was even more direct. Is there any reason you couldn't or wouldn't support the president at the convention? Third delegate said the conversation he received was more open-ended. Do you have any concerns, like about his dementia? The delegates were thunderstruck at the calls. They're like, holy crap, they're like shaking the cage. One of them initially wondered if it was some sort of a prank until double-checking the caller ID, seeing it was a Delaware area code. Probably Hunter Biden calling everybody. Hey, yeah, come out to Chicago? Great, got a place for you to stay. After hanging up, each of them reached out to other delegates. Are you also getting calls, threatening calls from Joe Biden? 3 delegates I spoke to, all long-standing veterans, said they had the same initial reaction. They said, was this an attempt by the president's campaign to block or replace disloyal Democrats? Yes, you guys nailed it. Good job. That's your party. One of them, however, was less intimidated than depressed. He's like, oh gosh, what? They're calling me now. What am I going to do? They clearly hadn't marked down that they had already called me, so they called him again. Got a second call. Hey, just making sure. Yeah, no, we know he called you. We're just making sure. We're also outside your house right now. You want to come out and talk to us? Asked about the calls to the delegates, a Biden advisor said no outreach from the campaign is currently happening. One Biden advisor. 3 delegates I spoke to who took the calls said the person identified themselves as working for the Biden-Harris Delegate Operation Team. Yeah. And one of the delegates shared a screenshot of the phone number and what popped up. Full legal name was BFPCC Inc. What's that? A 4th delegate I spoke to also got a voicemail from 302, shared it with me. The caller, so this journalist called, caller introduced himself as Delegate Operations Associate with Biden for President. Nice title. Delegate Operations Associate. Hi, are you looking for a delegate today? Asked the delegate if he had any questions or concerns. Now, asked for a comment, the Biden advisor pointed to a news report of pledged delegates remaining supportive. But I've also learned of a group chat of a few dozen delegates who are organizing a letter urging the DNC, to change the rules, to make the nomination vote a secret ballot and free the delegates to vote their conscience. insurrect the will of the Democratic voters. The inquiries come at a time when Biden and his senior aides are focused almost entirely on securing commitments. Now, they've called a bunch of people Black Caucus, Democratic governors, mayors, unions, everybody. The delegate-by-delegate outreach reflects the campaign's fears. Polls indicate that the catastrophic debate performance show many people prefer another nominee. But I'm seeing polls right now, as we've talked about, Democrats fall in line. They're good little lemmings. They throw hysterical hissy fits all the time, but they do what they're told. That's how they operate. That's why they're Democrats. And they will fall back in line. So they'll just shut up and they'll just go back to listening. They'll all forget about it, honestly. They'll try to memory hole this debate. And they will. It's a long time from now. They'll just say, oh, Project 2025. And they'll just keep screaming about whatever they engineer next. So, however, one Democrat said the delegate slates estimated that at least a quarter of those pledged delegates are now wavering, so 1/4. It was only a temperature check, nothing really substantive. And the delegates I spoke to, this journo says, they said they'd like a new nominee. Now, we're so scared of disunity or chaos, but we need a game changer. Why not have a week-long reality show, they said. People watch because there's real drama, not just a coronation. The whole problem with Biden is he can't prosecute the case against Trump. None of the delegates I spoke to want to break their commitment, although one of them is considered potential election lawyers to consult if necessary. That was my first thought. Let me see what the lawyers say about this little form I signed. Each of them were veering between sadness and anger. Well, hopefully that leads to some sort of an epiphany. I mean, there is a possibility to live a better way, but it does require abandoning your Democratic Party, which I know is very hard for these people because it's their entire identity. And imagine doing that. Imagine if your whole identity is wrapped up in just, in your political cult you're in. And the same emotions most Democrats are struggling with. I'm struggling with words to come up with words about how frustrating this is. That is like multiple layers of pain. Anyways, others are very concerned about this. Manu Raju from CNN was making the rounds around the halls of Congress. Here's what he said.
Listening to the legitimate concerns of Ohio voters, my job is to fight for them on everything, to fight for lower drug prices.
How concerned are you about his chances in November?
I'm very concerned. It's going to be a close race, and we already knew that.
But, I mean, you have to be concerned about his viability, aren't you?
I am deeply concerned about Joe Biden winning this November because it is an existential threat to the country if Donald Trump wins. So I think that we have to reach a conclusion as soon as possible.
And as the Biden team wants to shut down any speculation that he may leave the race, Nancy Pelosi's comments today suggesting that Biden hadn't made a decision has had the actual opposite effect. In fact, many other Democrats are echoing that line, saying, we'll wait and see what Joe Biden ultimately decides to do. Now, this bill...
He's already decided. What else are they waiting for? He's decided like 5 times already. It's been 2-3 weeks now. What are we talking about here? He's staying in the race, okay? It's already been decided.
Building has been abuzz with activity behind closed doors. A number of ideological groups on the House side, Democratic side, have been having meetings, some of them talking about how to handle the prospects of Joe Biden running again, whether or not they should come out in opposition to him as well, should voice their concerns publicly. We have learned, my colleague Annie Greer and I have learned that Hakeem Jeffries, a Democratic leader who has been public in his support of Joe Biden, plans to relay the concerns that he is hearing behind the scenes from his members directly to Biden in the coming days. He told that to members in recent meetings. So a lot of discussion and activity and concern as the Biden team tries to ease those concerns coming to Capitol tomorrow. But will that be enough? That is still uncertain in the days ahead.
Yeah, we'll see. They're going to try to make it death by 1,000 cuts, and the media is turning on him, as we can see. Here was another clip. This guy, Greg Lansman, says he's getting closer and closer to calling on Biden to withdraw. It's like, what? It's becoming increasingly likely that this may be just too high of a hill for him to climb. Let's listen to a little bit of this.
What the former House Speaker said yesterday, what did it mean to you as you weigh whether or not you think you're going to call on for Biden to step aside?
You know, she is just a giant, and we all have an enormous amount of respect for her, so that was a big deal, though not surprising. And I feel very similar, which is that everything's on the line here. The stakes are so high. You know, Trump in a second term would be dangerous to our democracy. He'll upend our lives, and the only thing worse than that would be if he was in control of all 3 branches of government, which is becoming more and more likely to happen. I mean, that's where we're headed. And I think that's why she did what she did. And she's saying the right thing, which is it's his decision. President Biden has to make this decision, and he's got to make it very soon. He doesn't have much time. And the idea that he'll come back and keep saying, well, I've already made a decision. This is it. I'm staying in.
He already did
that. What she's saying there, or at least what I would be hoping he would read from that is, well, there's time to change that decision. decision if you can't pull this off.
It really sounds like you feel like she opened the door for him and you want him to walk through it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting closer and closer to appreciating that as much as I respect Joe Biden. And
we have the most feckless people in charge. They're just waffling until the very last minute. The dude's not competent. He's on the small business committee and he's going to hem and haw for weeks. It's just wild. It's like, how can you even live your life that way? Imagine what this guy, like, hey, honey, what do you want for dinner? He's like, well, gosh, I have to think about that for about 15 hours. Can I think about it and tell you in the morning when it's breakfast time? Make a decision. What else do you need to see? Of course, they're just cowards. They're waiting to see which way the cards fall so he can jump on board because they can't take a position because they have no integrity.
The only one who makes this decision is President Biden. He has communicated he is in this race. He is going to see it through and he's ready for a second term. And until and unless that changes, I'm all,
but
go ahead.
You think that there's a possibility he could change his mind?
I don't. I've heard nothing to the contrary.
Right.
I understand that there are people with different opinions. I understand that some are playing fantasy football and want to just pick a couple of random leaders that they like across the country and design a ticket. That's just not how this works.
Yeah, idiots. We saw that yesterday. It was like romance novel or something. It was embarrassing. Somebody said, let's do like a blitz primary and nobody can attack each other and we can all just talk about the future of America and put them all together. It's like, what are you talking about? This is the White House, weird person. This is a big deal. You don't just get out there and just like have kumbaya sessions into the Oval Office. Ridiculous.
We have a president who's gotten the nomination, who's earned it, who is barreling toward convention. And unless he decides something differently, this is the field and this is the high stakes we're in.
Yeah.
And so everybody should stop stabbing him in the back. Okay, Obama. Okay, Clooney. He's made his decision. You all told us he was absolutely competent. Now you're trying to reverse course. No, it's not how it works. So here is this one coming from NBC saying nobody's calling to help Joe, apparently. Is Hollywood moving away from Biden?
All the doctors in the world could not patch up with any political candidate, a lack of money. And your new reporting, along with some other colleagues at NBC, suggests that the money is beginning to dry up and dry up quickly.
Yeah, it's reporting we've been working on for the last few days. And really, the story is people are not picking up the phone, Brian, to help Joe Biden, at least some of the people we know of, to raise money for him right now. These are fundraisers, bundlers who, up until that debate, let's be very clear, were very loyal to Joe Biden. These are people who are raising money at a clip. We know how much he's been raising as Donald Trump for over a year. But now, post the debate and over the last 2 weeks or so since then, the money has just been not coming in at the clip that they want, and they've been holding back because they are not entirely sure that Biden is going to be the nominee, despite the fact that Biden is saying that he is staying in the race. There is just this uncertainty right now in the fundraising game for the Democratic Party. And to Howard's point, the perception of how Biden is doing has leaked into the donor world and impacted how they are trying to raise money for him today and potentially in the coming days as we move forward.
That's great. So it's just frozen, basically. They don't know where to put their money. If they send their money to Joe Biden for America, riding with Biden or whatever it is, then that can be money that's gone. Joe Biden is not the nominee. It's gone. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to good use unless he repurposes it or unless he sends it to Kamala, or then he can send it to a PAC. So the money's drying up. We know other reporters are saying Chuck Schumer is going to try to talk to him. Here's a little bit from Bernstein.
Simplify things. He's frustrated with the whole situation, especially
Chuck Schumer.
The way the White House, the way Biden, the way the first family has dug in and has said that there's no more discussion of this. That's the frustration.
It's their choice.
And Schumer is hearing from every quarter.
They got voted in.
From donors, from members of the Senate, from members of the House, that he, as a leader of the party, has got to do something to see that there is an orderly process in which the best candidate who could best defeat and face Donald Trump becomes the nominee. And there's grave doubt that that person is Joe Biden. Grave doubt among senators of the Democratic Party, grave doubt among members of the House of the Democratic Party, among donors, and certainly we don't know to a T what Schumer's doubts are. He's very careful in this master class, as you called it, of being a little bit evasive in language, the way Speaker Pelosi was also there. But he's frustrated, and he's feeling the anger, and he's voiced some of the anger to people he's been talking to. And the fact that he, the leadership of the House and the Senate, the party itself, the donors, everybody is left a little hanging here, except for Joe Biden, who says, I'm the nominee, I'm running. And at the same time, it is the greatest secret in the world that has been unsecretized that there is huge movement against Joe Biden running in the party right now. And that includes among the senators Schumer is talking to and the House members. And so you have an unprecedented situation here that Schumer is trying to keep from breaking open in a way that there is intra-party warfare. And his solution, which he thought he had a real shot at doing over the weekend, was to convene a meeting, probably today or yesterday, of 3 or 4 people who love Joe Biden in the Senate, in the House.
It's an intervention. They're staging a presidential intervention.
Among his friends, meet with Biden, not ambush him, but have a full discussion.
It's an
with
intervention.
Biden, maybe including Nancy Pelosi.
Listen, Joe, we all gathered here today because we love you, Joe.
About the repercussions of his decision that he is running and case closed. He still wants to do that, Schumer does, and is intent on having such a discussion.
Wow. Okay, so that is incredible. They have no idea what they're doing. They are totally melting down, and it's just been epic to watch. Here is one person's take on it. Scott Jennings shared this over on CNN, says this is the first time that Biden has had to face this. The media is coming after him. They don't know what to do. And there really is, it seems like, a hard fracture there. Joe and the family are digging in. But here is one take from Scott Jennings.
His issue is not a one-off cognitive test. His issue is that he's super old. He is an obvious decline from when he ran in 2020 and from when he served as vice president. And I mean, no test is going to reverse what we've seen. The reason he's having so much trouble with all this is because he spent his entire career, this is disorienting for him. This is the first time in his life that his personal narrative is not being covered up, either by Democrats or by media looking the other way. This is the first time we've seen on full display the truth. They have covered this up for so long, and it's a scandal.
It is a scandal. It's probably criminal. I mean, if anybody else was doing this to take their grandfather in to get a loan or something like that, yeah, it'd be elder abuse. You see, this guy's totally gone, and he probably would have had other clinical diagnoses if they didn't need to cover it up. So the president's in the middle of an interesting season. His president, who took him under his wing, stabs him in the back. A2, Obama? I think so. So interesting times ahead. We'll see if there's enough pressure to throw Joe out. But until then, we are riding with Biden for the Democratic nomination. He represents them, so he should not go anywhere.